The colony on Varelia 9 was quiet that evening, bathed in the pale green light of its twin moons. I had spent the day cataloging the alien flora for the Federation's research logs, my work interrupted only by the occasional curious glance from Varelian citizens who were more accustomed to me wandering their city than anyone else from Earth. But nothing could have prepared me for the evening's events. The incident started innocently enough, during a diplomatic celebration held in the palace gardens. The alien princess, Larissa, was known throughout the sector as fierce, clever, and unyielding. Her beauty was legendary, not the kind that could be captured in images or data files, but the sort that turned heads and silenced conversations. I had met her before, briefly, during earlier diplomatic events, always maintaining the respectful distance a human diplomat or researcher was expected to observe. Yet tonight, something was different. A game had begun. The court's entertainment, a series of friendly competitions between humans and Varelians, was underway. Larissa and I found ourselves paired for a challenge of agility and dexterity, a zero-gravity obstacle course designed to test balance and speed. I had no illusions about my abilities. Varelians were naturally superior in agility. Their lithe forms and gravity-adapted musculature made them the champions of such games. The course twisted and turned through the palace's central atrium. I stumbled on the first platform, nearly falling into the anti-gravity pit below. Larissa, moving with grace and precision, zipped past me, her laughter echoing softly in the chamber. She was enjoying herself, I realized, and I, despite my clumsy attempts, was determined not to appear entirely ridiculous. For 20 minutes, we navigated the floating platforms, spinning wheels, and shimmering energy barriers. It became clear by the final stage that I was hopelessly behind. Larissa reached the finishing platform first, landing elegantly while I flailed for balance, crashing into the cushion of a safety net. The court erupted in applause, and Larissa turned to me, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You lost, human," she said in perfect Galactic common, her voice teasing. "You know the rules, don't you?" I shook my head, confused. "Rules?" Her smile widened.
"The bet.
The loser spends one night in the winner's company. In my case, that means sharing my quarters. Your bed." I froze. The court tittered nervously, unsure if this was a formal decree or another playful jest. Larissa stepped closer, her hand brushing against mine in a deliberately casual gesture. "Of course, you can protest, but you won the bet fair and square," she said, tilting her head. I opened my mouth, but words failed me. Sharing a bed with the galaxy's most formidable and beautiful princess? The mind reels at the implications. Yet there was something in her gaze, something playful, something almost challenging, that made hesitation feel dangerous. By the time the ceremony ended, we were walking together through the palace corridors. Larissa led the way, her presence commanding attention even in a building filled with hundreds of dignitaries. I followed, unsure of my own courage, my mind spinning with possibilities and warnings alike. Her quarters were magnificent, a blend of alien architecture and natural design, with glowing walls that shifted colors depending on mood, and a view of the city that stretched beyond comprehension. She gestured for me to sit on a bench by the panoramic window. "Sit, human. The night is young," she said, though her tone hinted that sitting was the last thing on her mind. I did as instructed, trying to maintain some measure of dignity, while she began to remove her ceremonial attire. Layers of iridescent fabric slid away to reveal the form-fitting armor she favored for official duties. Despite my training in human etiquette and diplomatic restraint, I couldn't help but notice her posture, the graceful lines of her body, and the faint glow of her bioluminescent skin. She caught my glance and laughed softly. "Curious, aren't you?" I cleared my throat. I'm only human. It's natural to observe. Larissa tilted her head, walking closer. Then observe. Learn, perhaps. But remember, tonight, the rules are mine, and the bed belongs to both of us. The words sent a thrill through me, a shiver I didn't entirely understand. We spoke then, quietly, about trivialities, her studies of Varelian history, my notes on human diplomacy, and the strange similarities between our cultures. I discovered that she wasn't just a warrior or a ruler. She was curious, intelligent, and lonely in ways I had never imagined. Finally, she gestured toward the massive bed that dominated one side of the room. Its surface was covered in a soft, shimmering fabric that seemed almost liquid under the twin moonlight filtering through the windows. I hesitated. Larissa's eyes softened, and in that instant, any notion of propriety seemed irrelevant.
"Come," she said.
"The bet has been settled. You may rest here." I moved closer, and together we lay down. There was an initial awkwardness, the kind that accompanies strangers forced into proximity. But as the night wore on, conversations turned to confessions. She spoke of her fears, the weight of expectation, the burden of ruling a world where every decision could lead to war or peace. I shared fragments of my life, my humanity, and the strange courage it required to walk into a galaxy filled with beings far stronger than myself. At some point, her hand brushed mine. Then her head rested lightly against my shoulder. My heart hammered, not from fear, but from a profound recognition that across species and cultures, there could exist a connection that transcended everything else. Hours passed, and eventually, the room fell silent, save for the quiet hum of the city outside. I realized that the bet, which at first seemed absurd and whimsical, had led to something far greater than either of us expected.
Trust.
Comfort. A fragile bond between human and alien, born from an unexpected challenge and nurtured in a shared night. When dawn came, Larissa rose gracefully, adjusting her garments. "Remember," she said with a smirk, "tonight was a bet, but it doesn't mean the next will be so easy." I laughed, despite the lingering awe of the experience. I wouldn't have it any other way. As she departed to attend to her duties, I sat by the window, watching the city awaken beneath the rising twin suns. And I realized that sometimes the galaxy's most dangerous and unpredictable beings could also become the ones who teach you the most about courage, connection, and unexpected friendship. It was a night I would never forget. And though the bet was settled, the story had only just begun.